Prabhupada ki Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Salman Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Salman Pando Mui Sabadana Mate Pando Mui Sabadana Mate Chahara Prasade Bai E Baba Toriya Jai Chahara Prasade Bai E Baba Toriya Jai Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Hoite Krishna Prapti Ho Jaha Hoite Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Aikya Ana Koriya Mane Asha Ana Koriya Mane Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Ese Utama Gati Shri Guru Charane Rati Ese Utama Gati Te prasade pure sarva asa Te prasade pure sarva asa Shakudan diloje jame jame Prabhu se Shakudan diloje jame jame Prabhu se Divya Gyan Hide Prakashita Divya Gyan Hide Prakashita Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite Abhija Vinas Jate Prema bhakti jaha hoiti, abhija bina sajati. Vede gaye jahara charita. Vede gaye jahara charita. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu. Loke Nab Loke Rajivana. Loke Nab Loke Rajivana. Ha ha Prabhu karo doya deho more padachaya. Ha ha Prabhu karo doya deho more padachaya. E bejas kusuk tribhuvana. E bejas kusuk tribhuvana. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitya Namine. Prabhupada. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Bhasketya Desatarine. Prabhupada. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Chaitanya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Gaura Gaura Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gora Gora, Hare Bo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gora Gora. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gora Gora. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Radhachandra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ora. Jaya Goranita, 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 Jaya Goranita. Jaya Goranita, 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 Jaya Goranita. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Giri Govardhana, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Giri Govardhana. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Giri Govardhana, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Giri Govardhana. Jaya Radha Govardhana, Radha Govardhana, Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Govardhana, Radha Govardhana, Shri Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yugadam ki, Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. It's okay. Thank you. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Krishna. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Srila Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishwapad Paramahamsa Paraviradyakutar Asatar Satahistavanga Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anatakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Radha Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Balaram Logiraj Shona Shingadev Ki Jai. Shri Gaunitai Ki Jai. Nitya Gaura Premanande Hare Hare Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Hare Krishna everyone, and thank you very much for coming to this morning's class. So this morning we're going to be speaking from one of the verses from the chapter Srimad Bhagavatam entitled Description of Adverse Fruitive Activities. And today also happens to be the anniversary of ISKCON's incorporation. So I will be talking about that at the end of my Srimad Bhagavatam presentation. Okay, so you can all see that up there, yeah? Okay, so here we go. Narakastopi deham vai napumams chaktum ichati narakyam nivrito satyam devamaya vimohitaha narakostopi deham vai napumams chaktum ichati narakyam nivrito satyam devamaya vimohitaha narakostopi deham vai naipumams chaktum ichati narakyam nivrito satyam devamaya vimohitaha. Somebody please chant. Narakostopi deham vai napumams chaktum ichati narakam nivrito satyam devamaya vimohitaha narakastopi deham vai napumams chaktum ichati narakam nivrito satyam devamaya vimohitaha narakastopi deham vai napumams chaktum ichati narakam nivrito satyam devamaya vimohitaha narakastopi deham vai napumams chaktum ichati narakam nivrito satyam devamaya vimohitaha. Okay, any of our ladies? Narakostopi deham vai napumams chaktum ichati narakam nivrito satyam devamaya vimohitaha narakostopi deham vai napumams chaktum ichati narakam nivrito satyam devamaya vimohitaha. Okay, so here we go word for word. Naraka, in hell. Sta, situated. Api, even. Deham, body. Vai, indeed. Na, not. Puman, person. Chaktam, to leave. Ichati, wishes. Narakam, hellish. Nivrito, enjoyment. Satyam, when existing. Devamaya, by the illusory energy of Vishnu. Vimohita, deluded. All right, so here we come to the translation. The conditioned living entity is satisfied in his own particular species of life, while deluded by the covering influence of the illusory energy. He feels little inclined to cast off his body, even when in hell, for he takes delight in hellish enjoyment. Right, translation, please repeat. The conditioned living entity is satisfied in his own particular species of life, while deluded by the covering influence of the illusory energy. He feels little inclined to cast off his body, even when in hell, for he takes delight in hellish enjoyment. Purport. by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. It is said that once Indra, the king of heaven, was cursed by his spiritual master Brihaspati on account of his misbehavior, and he became a hog on this planet. After many days, when Brahma wanted to recall him to his heavenly kingdom, Indra, in the form of a hog, forgot everything of his royal position in the heavenly kingdom, and he refused to go back. This is the spell of Maya. Even Indra forgets his heavenly standard of life and is satisfied with the standard of a hog's life. By the influence of Maya, the conditioned soul becomes so affectionate towards his particular type of body that if he is offered, give up this body and immediately you will have a king's body, he will not agree. This attachment strongly affects all conditioned living entities. Lord Krishna is personally canvassing, give up everything in this material world, come back to me, I shall give you all protection. But we are not agreeable. We think we are quite all right. Why should we surrender unto Krishna and go back to his kingdom? This is called illusion or Maya. Everyone is satisfied with his own standard of living, however abominable it may be. Om Gyati Miranda Shaganandana Shalakara Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Mistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Maha Kadyam Kada Mahyam Darati Sapadantikam Naranayam Namaskrita Naram Chaivanarata Mam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tata Jayam Udirayet Nashta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavat Shevaya Bhagavatu Tamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. So before this class, I humbly ask for the blessings of all the Vaishnava devotees that I may give a class that is pleasing to our wonderful lordships, to Srila Prabhupada and all of our acharyas, and also to the devotees. Yeah. Okay, so this chapter is actually quite interesting. You know, Lord Kapila Dev is really speaking about the impact of the material energy on the living entities. And so this shloka number 5, it actually perfectly describes the circumstances of the spiritual living beings in our current material societies around the world, right? So the part of the sentence is, for they take delight in hellish enjoyment, right? In other words, whatever type of abominable situation a living being finds himself in, they are thinking how they can enjoy themselves as much as they can, right? And according to global surveys, right, they do these social sciences surveys around the world, most people are actually thinking that they are enjoying themselves and that they are making progress, this word progress, in the material world. So this is the enjoying principle in the materially contaminated individual. And the spiritual jiva who is materially embodied, they cannot understand their own situation because the material energy is obscuring their vision, so that they cannot see themselves, they cannot see the Supreme Lord, and they cannot see their relationship with other living beings, and so forth. So, this is actually their own material desires is causing that obscuring of their vision. So, you know, whatever situation a living being may find themselves within this material world, so first they are considering their physical body, they are considering whatever material circumstances they have ended up in, and immediately that they start thinking about how they can best enjoy themselves, how they can become most comfortable in the material world, and how they can become the most happy. So, I mean, this is actually very natural. Every living being in the world wants to be happy, but due to the material energy that is covering their heart, it's covering their consciousness, yes, they are forgetting the Supreme Lord. They are forgetting their dependency on the Supreme Lord. And certainly they have forgotten their eternal, blissful, loving relationship with the Supreme Lord. So in this kind of forgetfulness, yes, the spiritual individual, he is imagining and he is speculating how he can somehow organize things for himself. And so he starts running after material objects in the world, thinking how objects can somehow add to his happiness and comfort. And he also starts running after other materially embodied jivas, thinking how those other living beings can somehow add to his material comforts and enjoyment. So actually, once the spiritual soul gets implicated in this sort of bewilderment of the material energy, it is actually quite difficult to get out of. Right. I'm sure you've all heard of quicksand. Right? Back in going back decades ago, they always used to use quicksand in the very dramatic movies, like somebody would get stuck in quicksand and they couldn't get out. So quicksand is this sort of slushy, muddy, watery silt. It's like sand and mud mixed together. And actually, they say that on the surface of quicksand, you can't actually tell that it's quicksand. It just looks like normal ground. But as we know, once you step into quicksand, or if you put any limb into quicksand, it is very, very difficult to get it back out again. And the amazing thing about quicksand is that once you're in there, the more you sort of wriggle around, to try and get yourself out, the further in you sink. Right? And this is actually very similar to the material world. Right? So when we've become situated in the material world, the more that we wriggle around and try and organize things for ourselves so that we will be more comfortable, feel less pain, so that we can enjoy ourselves more, the further and further we sink into the material energy, to the point where we end up in a very dark place, a very dark, hellish place. Right? So, and fairly much, all of the time, you cannot get out of quicksand. The only way to get out of quicksand is to have somebody who is not in the quicksand pull you out. So in chapter 7 of Bhagavad Gita, verse 14, Krishna is saying, got it up on the screen there, Devi sha gunamai mama maya dharataya mameva prapandyante maya metam taranti te. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, it is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me, they can easily cross beyond it. And this is actually very significant, right? This word easily, right? So on the one hand, we have a situation which is very, very difficult for the spiritual living being, and then the contrast, which is quite a stark contrast, is that not only can we cross beyond it, but we can easily cross beyond it. This is very significant. So we need Krishna's mercy. We need his help to free ourselves from this entanglement that we have ended up in. And I was going to mention, this actually reminds me of, so we've probably all heard of this ship Titanic that sank 100 years ago. Right, so 100 years ago, somebody in the world, they built this huge passenger ship. And in its time, the Titanic was said to be the largest movable object on the face of the planet. It was also described as being unsinkable. But sure enough, what happened on its maiden voyage, on its first trip out, it hit an iceberg and it sank. Right? And there were thousands of people on board. Many of them died, but some of them survived. And they sort of fell into the ocean, which is freezing cold because there's all these icebergs around. And, they're injured, they're traumatized, and they're scrambling around in the water, grabbing onto bits of furniture and whatever else ended up in the water. And, they're virtually half dead. And then eventually the rescue ships came along and they said, hey, quick, we're here, climb on board. And I'll never forget this because I actually saw the interviews with some of the survivors. The survivors just looked up, they're explaining, they looked up and they said, there is no way that we can get out of this. We are so overcome by the elements. Someone is simply going to have to come down here into the water and get us out. So this is actually our predicament in the material world. We are so overcome by the elements, we cannot get out by ourselves. Yes, we need to take shelter of Krishna. We need to take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. Now, there's a very nice shloka in 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 14, text 58. It goes like this. Samasritaye padapalavaplavam mahat param punya yasho murare bhavam burivatsa padam param param padam param yadvi padam netesham. So the first part of that translation, so it's Lord Brahma speaking, and he says like this: for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, right, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world, it is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print. Right? So in other words, the deluded spiritual living being who is floundering about in the material world, suffering within the material ocean, if they take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, then all these complications and troubles, right, they become no greater than the water that is contained in a calf's hoof print on the ground. And I actually had a very nice meditation on this. One time I was walking down Loy Bazaar in Vrindavan. It's one of my favorite places, Loy Bazaar. And I was meditating on how bulls and cows, they have these enormous bodies. Like they are so big and their body weight is so much bigger than ours. But still, their hoof prints on the ground, if you look at them, they're actually quite small if you compare them to their body size, right? And you know, this can actually be extended further to say that this actually symbolizes, if we think about it, how little the cows and the bulls impact on Mother Earth compared to human beings who are more or less destroying the earth. In any case, so I was meditating like this and walking along, and this huge bull came up beside me. I didn't see him coming. He came up from behind, and he was right beside me, and he put his hoof like this, right beside me, right? When I was meditating like this. He scared me half to death, but he didn't hear me. He didn't hurt me. But in any case, yes. So this is the analogy that is given, right? So you know what this means is that a person's deep life struggles, right? They become very small, and they become easy to understand. They become easy to manage, right? You know, and this is the case whether we are talking about. So there's this word today, globetrotter. So I think the word globetrotter, it refers to a person who is involved in so many things, right? They're connected with so many people, they're traveling all over the world, they've got so many businesses going on, right? Whether a person is living a life like that, or whether a person is living quite a simple, localized life and not actually involving themselves in so much, right? Regardless of their circumstances, their own particular individual challenges and obstacles, yes, they shrink. They actually shrink when we are taking shelter of Krishna. So this means our hard problems, critical questions in life, difficult decision making, what to speak of all our numerous worries. Yes, they will reduce in size, and the analogy is there given that, yes, they will fit into a calf's hoof print. Right? Can I just ask somebody to open the door a little bit so we get some fresh air? I know it's a bit cold. Yeah, thank you very much. So there's a very nice shloka in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 40, text 11. Right, it goes, Sattvam rajastama iti bhavata prakrite guna teshu hi prakrita prota abrama stavara dayaha. So this is actually Akrura. He is glorifying Krishna and Krishna's material energies. All right, and he is saying that goodness, passion, and ignorance, which are your material energies, they are bewildering all the living beings within this material cosmos, all the way from Lord Brahma, right? We know that Lord Brahma is in the upper material planets. He's in the strata of the subtle material energy. So from Lord Brahma all the way down to Stavara Dayaha. Stavara Dayaha are the non-moving entities. So everyone in the material cosmos, they are being influenced. Now, this word, in this particular shloka, we have this word prakrita prota. So the word prota means interwoven or enmeshed, right? And we know the word prakriti. Prakriti is material nature. But in this particular shloka, so prakrita, AH, it refers to the living beings who are affected by material nature. So prakrita prota. Right? So in other words, the three modes of material nature, they are interweaving or enmeshing the living beings, the conditioned living beings, into the material energy. But, there's a but, right? To explain this further, sorry, if anyone's really cold, I mean, it is quite cold out there. Maybe just leave it like that. Yeah, sorry, I don't want to freeze anyone here. Yeah, so to explain this point further, right, there's a letter that Srila Prabhupada wrote to Chaturbhuj. I assume that that is one of his disciples, in 1973. So this letter goes like this. It is not the soul itself that becomes mixed with matter, but it is his consciousness that becomes absorbed in trying to enjoy the matter, right? Because we know from Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter, we know that the soul itself, or what Srila Prabhupada calls the soul proper, it cannot actually be affected by anything in the material world, the material energy. But as Srila Prabhupada is explaining, the consciousness of the soul, that is what becomes affected by the material energy, right? Now, the worst part of this, or the sad part of this, we could say, is that all living beings, pretty much, who are materially conditioned, say even if it's a family member or a friend or anyone in society, if we approach them and we were to say very, very nicely, my dear spiritual soul, actually, you may not actually be making the best decisions for yourself because the material energy is affecting your consciousness and so forth. What is likely to be the response coming back? Exactly. I'm okay. I know what I'm doing. I am the best decision maker for me. No, I'm not going to go to the Hare Krishna temple because I am the best decision maker. So this is unfortunately the biggest obstacle that materially embodied spiritual souls have. It's their own determination that they know that what they are doing within the material world. Now, there is another very nice shloka. This time we are looking in the Brahma Samhita, right, chapter 5, text 54. Again, this concerns the jiva's entanglement in the material energy, which is causing him to perpetually suffer reactions because of his own activities. So in this particular shloka, right, Lord Brahma, he is using the analogy of or the example rather, of the two Indras. So again, we're up with the demigods. We have Lord Indra. Lord Indra lives in Indra Loka, that's in Svarga Loka. And then also there is this tiny insect, right? This insect is called Indragopa. It's a little mite, tiny, tiny insect. Right, so Lord Brahma is saying from that Indra to this Indra, everyone in the material world is being entangled in material nature and they're being bewildered, right? And also, the continuation of that particular verse is that, the devotees of the Lord, for the devotees of the Lord, Krishna is burning up those reactions to their reactions from the material energy. Right, so we've been hearing in today's purport, right, that Lord Indra, he had been cursed by Brihaspati. So Brihaspati is the demigod of the Devas, the guru of the Devas, right? He's the spiritual master of the demigods. So Lord Indra was cursed to take birth here on earth as a pig. And when Lord Brahma came to him and said, my dear Lord Indra, you have a post in the heavenly planets, you are needed there, you are wanted there. But Lord Indra did not want to return. He was simply enjoying himself with his pig wife and perhaps his pig children and his pig neighbors, and he was having a good time. So this actually shows how strong the bonds of karma are and how strong the illusory energy is, right? If it can delude even these great personalities like Lord Brahma and Lord Indra, what to speak of us, right? So in other words, it doesn't matter how grand or how degraded one's position is within the material world, everyone unavoidably is influenced and everyone is bewildered by the material nature, and therefore we become entangled, right? And what this actually means is that we are being tossed about in these turbulent waves of the material ocean, we could say, right? We have simply become numb, right? These freezing cold waters, like, they are simply making us numb to the point where we cannot understand what our situation is, what to speak of getting ourselves out. Now, sometimes in our Shastras, right, material life is described as being like a blazing hot fire, right, because it is simply scorching us wherever we turn, right, our sinful reactions, it's simply scorching us. And sometimes, yes, it is also described as a material ocean, right? In other words, we are lost in these freezing cold waters, that is the material world, and we are actually being tossed about by these huge waves, even though we may not see it, right? So, one wave will come from one direction and it'll sort of knock us over, and then we'll manage to sort of scramble up, and then another wave will come from another direction and knock us over that way, and then we'll sort of scramble up, and then there'll be a third wave coming from somewhere. So these waves, they can be likened to karmic reactions that are coming from the material energy. Now, we simply need to take shelter of Krishna. We actually, and his representative Srila Prabhupada, we actually need to beg for their mercy to get out of the material world. So Krishna is described as Kripa Sindhu, Kripa Sindhu, the ocean of mercy. So he's sending us his bona fide representative, in the form of Guru, and the Guru then becomes like a raft, really like a raft in this ocean. And if we're really smart, we're going to grab onto that raft so that we don't sink totally. So Krishna, in the form of Kripa Sindhu, the ocean of mercy, he's sending us his representative for us to get out of this freezing cold ocean of material life so that we can eventually be reinstated to the transcendental ocean of spiritual bliss. Jai Haribol. Right, so now a couple of months ago, our own dear Ganga Dasi, right, she was speaking very nicely about Srila Prabhupada's discussion about how the three modes of material nature, Srila Prabhupada on a number of occasions, he mentions this number 81, right, with regards to the combinations of the three gunas. So we have 3 modes multiplied by 3 makes 9, and then 9 multiplied by 9 makes 81. So Ganga was speaking about how these combinations, they manifest in our own thoughts, even as devotees, for anyone for that matter. And so Ganga was, explaining that, even though a particular task in the material world, it may be situated in a particular guna, but if our consciousness, while we're doing that task, if our consciousness is in another guna, then immediately we get a mixture of the gunas. Right? So this goes on quite a lot. Now, in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 14, verse 10, right, Krishna discusses how the 3 material qualities, by the way, when Srila Prabhupada says 3 material qualities, it's the same thing as when he says 3 material modes, right? So Krishna is explaining how these 3 material qualities, they will compete with each other for supremacy, right? We know this. They are not just sort of mixing and being jumbled up for no particular reason or for no, with no cause there, right? And most typically 1 or 2 of the 3 qualities, they will be more prominent than the others, right? So they all have their own characteristics and they all manifest in different ways. So, but the more a particular individual will absorb themselves in a particular mode or material nature, the more they will become fond of that particular mode. And when they become fond of that, then they become attached, right? in a letter in 1975, like Srila Prabhupada is discussing like this, that being situated within the different modes, definitely it means that we have a different type of consciousness. So one who is predominating in the mode of goodness, their consciousness is going to be very different to somebody, for example, who's situated in the mode of ignorance. Right? In fact, goodness and ignorance have been described as being diametrically opposed. Right? So, and I was going to say Rajagun in between, the mode of passion, this is the mode that really just confuses people. It even confuses devotees about what is what in the material world. Right? So, we as devotees, we would be wise to ask ourselves, what sort of consciousness do we want to be situated in? And of course, immediately we're thinking, yeah, we want Krishna consciousness, Jai. That's what we really want. Unfortunately, however, we are currently all materially embodied, yes. And the gunas in the material cosmos, they are affecting everything around us, right? So, I think I've skipped over a page here. Right. Oh, hang on a minute. Am I on the 3 modes? I am on the 3 modes, right. Okay, so now, the consequences of being situated within the mode of goodness, for example, they are also very, very different to the consequences, the outcomes. Right? Srila Prabhupada mentions that in the mode of goodness, right, the mode of goodness is actually very favorable to devotional life. Srila Prabhupada says that it can help us, right? Whereas the mode of ignorance, it's absolutely unfavorable to spiritual life. Also in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, right, Lord Hamsa, this is Krishna in the form of Lord Hamsa, he says that until the spiritual individual reawakens their direct knowledge of the supersoul of Krishna, they must cultivate the mode of goodness. So he is speaking there actually about the material mode of goodness. He's not speaking about Suddha Sattva, the pure spiritual platform. Now, yeah, I've actually missed a whole page here. That's okay. 20 years ago, I was actually down in Tasmania. I was doing my PhD down there. And I was actually working with the 3 modes of material nature. I was working from Srila Prabhupada's books. I was examining the scientists against the 3 modes of material nature, as the scientists were researching the Antarctic environment. They didn't really like me doing that. They didn't really like me analyzing them, but nevertheless I did. I did do that. And what I was going to say was, so about 15 years ago, I started writing a book, right, on the 3 modes of material nature and how it works, but I have still not finished this book. So I'm going to ask for all your blessings, and I'm very serious about this. I want all your blessings that I can please finish this book so that it can be published, for the benefit, hopefully, of devotees and everyone. Jai. Okay, so on we go. We're almost finished here. Now, this is another particular topic, right? In 2010, okay, right, so I published an article on how Maya Devi, right, Maya Devi, she is the personification of the material energy, right, and she will work with particular potencies within the material world to convince the spiritual beings that they are a spiritual identity and that they belong that they are a material identity rather than a spiritual identity, and that they belong in the material world rather than in the spiritual world, which is, of course, all inaccurate, right? So Maya Devi, she is actually a pure devotee of Krishna, right? Srila Prabhupada says that, but she is playing the role of testing and punishing the materially embodied jiva, right, according to the jiva's own material desires. So she deceives the materially embodied souls into thinking that, yes, they are actually a material identity and they belong in the material world. So Maya Devi, she is so clever at what she does, right, that our current material intellect and our material minds and our material eyes, we cannot pierce through the illusions that are created by Maya Devi. Right? Now, Srila Jiva Goswami, in the Paramatma Sandarbha, that's one of his books, it's entitled Discourse on the Nature of the Supersoul. Right, in stanza 54, he says, the illusory energy that Maya possesses, it has two characteristics. One is vidya, that's knowledge, and the other one is avidya, that's ignorance. Right? The vidya is the manifestation of Maya's unreserved mercy. Right? And avidya, that is the characteristic that is meted out as a punishment for offenses. And this avidya characteristic, yes, it has two features, avaranatmika and prakshapaatmika, also known as vikshapaatmika, or in other words, the demoting potency. So as we can see, and these images are put up on the screen here, every living being, like every spiritual individual who is materially embodied, he will think that he belongs, that he is a particular species, that is his identity, and that's all there is, beginning and end. And in the second, on the right-hand side of the image there, that is actually a direct quote by Srila Prabhupada. So in that particular instance, Srila Prabhupada, he is mimicking the prakshapaatmika potency. You know, Prabhupada is mimicking that potency, and he is saying, "Oh yeah, you know, why go to the Hare Krishna temple? Yeah, no, it's all, you know, won't enjoy myself there." So this is actually this potency. Yeah, it actually delivers convincing arguments for the poor spiritual being when he's in the material world. So, you know, if we're going to sum this up, right, if we look at the spiritual individual's situation, right, this tiny spiritual soul, right, we know how tiny the spiritual soul is. It's only 1/10,000 of the tip of a hair. That's how Srila Prabhupada describes it. So this tiny spiritual soul, right, it has to contend with the workings of Maya Devi. Her potencies, avaranatmika and prakshapaatmika. It also, you know, also spiritual jiva has to consistently try and offset the three modes of material nature. Right? Also, you know, as we're floundering about in the material world, we're either getting scorched by the reactions to our sins, or we're being overwhelmed by these freezing cold waters in the form of our karmic reactions. All of this, yeah, it's a lot for the spiritual individual to deal with. It's a lot. But, you know, if we place our faith in Krishna, if we place our faith in Srila Prabhupada, and if we take their recommendations seriously, right? I mean, all of us here, I assume, we've all read some of Srila Prabhupada's books. We've all read the translations, we've read the purports, at least some of them. So, you know, reading is one thing. Taking all of these recommendations seriously, very seriously, this is another thing. Yeah. And if we do take them very seriously, yes, then we can actually get out of all of these different material challenges that are there for us, right? Oh yeah, by the way, I have got a couple of copies here of my Bhakti Godhead article on this, how this works, these potencies. If anyone wants one of these, they can just ask me after class. But to finish off this part of our presentation today, right, do we have the microphone? Can somebody grab the microphone, please? Oh, somebody has it. So what I want us to do, right, this shloka that is up here, I want us all to chant this together in unison, not call and response. And after we've chanted it together, can somebody grab the microphone? After we've chanted the Sanskrit, I want somebody to read the English in a nice loud voice. Okay, here we go, the Sanskrit on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Machitta sarvadurgani mat prasada tarishyasi attachetvam ahankaran na ashosyasi vinangshasi.
If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost.
Thank you very much, Tom. Right, now, let's move on to the last part of our presentation. Right, so today marks the auspicious day, right? So 60 years ago, on the 13th of July, 1966, Srila Prabhupada incorporated ISKCON into a recognized legal entity, actually. And our own dear Mukunda Maharaj, right, he was one of the signatories. He became a trustee. No, excuse me. He became a trustee, and so also did Janaki, and also a devotee by the name of Jagannath Das. Right? So I thought we would have a quick look at the 7 purposes of ISKCON that Srila Prabhupada introduced at that time. Right. So these purposes or goals, yes, we hold fast to these in our movement today. We always have. The first one, right, I'm not going to read through the whole translations of all of them, but the whole script of all of them, but you've got them on the screen there. So the first one, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large. Right, so what does this mean? This means that essentially the Hare Krishna movement is a preaching movement. Right? And Srila Prabhupada has said, like this preaching movement, it is not only for the human beings, it's actually for all living beings. Right? So, you know, Srila Prabhupada here, he wants to ensure that all people within the world at large, that we have access to this transcendental knowledge that has been handed down to us, so that all people have the opportunity to start making their way back home to Godhead, right? Back home to Krishna. Number 2, to propagate a consciousness of Krishna as it is revealed in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? This means that as members of ISKCON, we are taking very seriously this approach to teach people of the world what God consciousness is, how we can reawaken our God consciousness, how we can develop our God consciousness. Right? Purpose number 3, to bring the members of the society together with each other and nearer to Krishna. Right? In other words, this is sadhu sangha, right? Our association with other Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis for the purpose of achieving Krishna's association. Right? Purpose number 4, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement's congregational chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Right. So, you know, Krishna himself, in the form of Lord Chaitanya, he actually started this Sankirtan movement, right? And we can understand from this purpose that Srila Prabhupada wanted this congregational chanting not only taken up by members of ISKCON who are fixed up in their practice of bhakti yoga, but he wants us to teach it to others. Right? It's not just for ourselves, it's for everyone. Number 5, to erect for members and for society at large a holy place of transcendental pastimes. So my understanding of this particular purpose is that Srila Prabhupada here is referring to the establishment of temples and other places of pilgrimage for Vaishnavas. You know, maybe somebody has something to add to that at the end of the class. Purpose number 6, to bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching a simpler and more natural way of life. And as we know, especially on the farms like here on New Govardhana, Srila Prabhupada has we often quote, simple living and high thinking, right? This is the key so that we do not become overwhelmed by the complexities of worldly life, as we have been discussing today, right? So that it's going to be more easy for us to focus on our spiritual goals, right? We need to live simply. And the last purpose, with a view towards achieving the aforementioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. So this last purpose, it's actually quite self-explanatory. You know, we are doing our best to spread this knowledge, and the written word is very, very effective, right? So the written word, writing, represents thoughts that remain in place once they have been conceived of. Now, today, of course, in this day and age, we have multimedia, so we are also preaching through video and images and audio and so forth, but still, the written word is actually the most potent, because with the written word, we can get we can really get the detailed explanations of spiritual life and what is going on here within our material circumstances. So, these 7 purposes that were conceived of by Srila Prabhupada in 1966, I do feel that as a global movement, we are achieving these purposes, right? We may not be achieving them in exactly the way that Srila Prabhupada had construed 60 years ago, but we are certainly having an impact globally, right, within this context. Now, we're almost out of time. It was a long class, but I'm very happy to take, if somebody has a question or a comment, first of all, on the first part of the class, would anyone like to comment, or they have a question, or? Oh, we have one from Emma, yeah.
Thank you, Padma Prabhu. Very, very nice class.
Thank you, Emma. Yeah.
Just at the beginning of the class, you were mentioning the analogy of, I don't know how you say in English, but that you go in the
quicksand.
ground. Quicksand.
Quicksand.
Yeah. Okay. So, and you said that the more we try to get out of the quicksand, the more we go in and we sink.
Yeah.
So, and it's similar to material life. The more we try to organize ourselves in a way that we can enjoy more, the more we get entangled. Right?
Well, yeah, okay, I'll wait till you finish your question.
Yeah. So my question is, in practically speaking, when we have some desires to have a better material...
Can somebody grab her another microphone, please? Yeah. Nice loud voice. No, it's in the cupboard. It's in the cupboard, Louise, in the box, up the top. Up the top, that's it. Just any microphone, that's it, yeah. Yes, please go on, Emma.
Yeah,
okay.
So when we have some desires to have a better material situation because we think that will help us in our spiritual life.
Yes.
Now my question would be one, how do we know that that's actually something that will help us in our spiritual life and not just a material desire, like Maya covering, you know? And the second part of the question would also be, do you think we should endeavor for that, or we should simply focus on our devotional life and then Krishna will arrange things accordingly for us to be in a better situation so we can practice spiritual life? Better. Which also, which also means that maybe the material situation is not so good, but that doesn't mean that our spiritual life is also not good. You know what I'm saying? Like our material situation may be bad, but actually that will help us getting closer to Krishna. Does that make sense?
Kind of. Okay, I think I've got the... No, that's good, thank you. So if I've understood you correctly, the first part of your question, you're asking if we are endeavoring to make our material lives more comfortable so that we can achieve devotional life. Is that the gist of your question? Yeah. So this is why, Srila Prabhupada is teaching simple living and high thinking. In the mode of goodness, the individual is not pursuing material comforts per se, right? That is something that belongs in Rajagun predominantly. In Rajagun, the senses are it, They're like the senses reign supreme in the mode of passion. But in the mode of goodness, the individual is prepared to live more frugally and to do, to not always have those material comforts, because they are aiming for something higher. Yeah. What was the second part of it? Can you say it in about 20 words? Yeah, that would be good. The second part of your question.
Better summarizing, I discovered. Should we endeavor for a better material situation, or should we only focus on our devotional service and Krishna will arrange things for us?
Okay, so in regards to your question, we need to understand what this term better situation means, because the deluding energy, it is fooling the living beings into thinking that this rajasic lifestyle in the mode of passion, where you have like 3 cars in the garage and a swimming pool and a tennis court, most people are thinking that that is a better and more comfortable way of life, right? So that's part of the deluding energy, right? So, but when the spiritual living being starts to come out of the material energy, they realize that that is actually not, that doesn't actually represent a very good or comfortable situation. So, at that point, the individual is prepared to live more frugally, right? Because they're not bewildered by that, the false idea that they are going to be more comfortable the more that they indulge in material life, right? So, am I responding to your question? Yeah. Yep. Okay, I think that's all I'll say on that one. Does somebody, I don't know if, you can all go to breakfast if you like, but if anyone wants to ask something more about this, or if they have something they want to discuss about Srila Prabhupada's incorporation of ISKCON, I'm very happy to continue the conversation. Ram Prasad, oh yeah, sorry, I'll just take a question from Noah. Yeah. Yeah.
I think, I don't know if you want to add more to this, but I would say if it brings you closer to Krishna, then it's good, but if it's taking you further away from Krishna...
That's very true.
Just
that's very true.
Put it simply, but then to actually understand that, you might need some guidance.
Yeah, so are you saying that in reference to something in particular? Like
what we were just discussing then.
Oh yeah. Yes, so perhaps you're speaking about using something in Krishna's service, like for example, a person can be very wealthy in the material world, and if they are using that wealth for Krishna's service, then it's a good thing. Is that the sort of point you are referring to?
Yeah, that and anything, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and that is very true. But what we find is, unfortunately, because of the nature of the material energy, it is actually very difficult for the individual to remain in the material world and to not be allured by the material energy. And this is why a simple lifestyle is recommended for spiritual practitioners. In fact, it's recommended for everyone, because everyone is supposed to be pursuing spiritual life. Right. So, yes, definitely. Prabhupada speaks about that. Prabhupada gives the analogy of the microphone, or he'll say sometimes the hall in which we are sitting. If that particular object is used in Krishna's service, then it actually becomes spiritualized. And that is what we should be doing. But still, because of the nature of the senses and the material mind, which is the chief sense, the senses, including the mind, they are very prone to just running away with material desires. It's like a horse just running away. So to make it easier for the spiritual practitioner, it is recommended that just live very simply. Yeah. Yeah,
and I would say best always to take instructions from authority.
Oh, definitely, yes. So the authorized, Guru, Krishna himself is teaching, Srila Prabhupada is teaching, our senior devotees are teaching, how we can understand how to live our lives in the material world. Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much, Noah. Yeah. Ram Prasad Prabhu, did you have anything to maybe add about the incorporation or something?
No, I was just thinking in terms of Emma's question, there's also that warning, I think it's in the Upadeshamrita, that we have to be careful about over-endeavour.
Yes, that's another thing too.
Your point that simple is better is generally the case.
Generally, that is the recommendation.
Unless you're like on Prabhupada's platform, he was dealing with millions of dollars.
Yes.
But he wasn't caught up with any of it.
Yeah.
But for us, if I had $200 in my hand right now, I'd become bewildered.
Oh, definitely. I think if anyone of us finds, a spare $100 in our pocket all of a sudden, I can go out and buy some ice cream or whatever it was, we were we were not going to buy before. I know I've come across this in myself also, depending, and it's almost proportionate to what we have. I remember one time I was unemployed and I had $10 to spend on a jacket. So I was thinking, I can find, maybe a second-hand coat. Then a little bit later I was working and I found that, I can probably spend about $100 on a jacket. So my thinking, and in both situations, I would have ended up with a coat, a jacket, in either situation. But the desire and the plan, it just incrementally increased, according to my circumstances. I do believe there's a quote by Srila Prabhupada. Also, he says that a man with $10, he will have $10 problems, and a man with $1 million, he will have $1 million problems. But as you are rightly saying, the Guru, Srila Prabhupada, or any devotee actually who is fixed up properly in their consciousness, like our own dear Ambarish, who is born into wealth, as Albert Ford. Yeah, he's our very wealthy senior devotee. He, is of that consciousness that he is using his wealth in Krishna service. But that is actually more rare. It's more rare to find that. Yeah. Look, everyone, thank you so much. I've kept you. Thank you for coming. And if anyone wants one of these, you can come and see me. Okay, Hare Krishna, Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Oh, this one? You can have this. This is, I published this in Back to Godhead. Back to Godhead magazine? Yeah. So in 2010, I published an article in there about the Avadanatmika and Prakshapatmika. You can have it if you like. Yeah, you can tell me what you think. Yeah, you can. Thank you for coming, Emma. I wasn't sure if I felt that your question was very expansive, actually. No, it's okay. Yeah. Definitely. So for the practicing devotee who is very dedicated to their path, they do not have so much to fear. I mean, I know Srila Prabhupada says we should always fear Maya, and that is there also. But as long as we are sticking to the recommendations and we are sticking to our practices, then there's going to be a lot less chance that we're not going to be using what we have in the right way. Sorry, I think Vishnu Jam probably wants to. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you for your help.